Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Green Party supports forestry, particularly permanent canopy, sustainable production. We need very good forestry rather than, as we're seeing, conversions to unsustainable and intensive dairying. But both forestry must be located without impact on the Indigenous habitats, and it must be done right. And at the moment, in too many cases, it isn't. We're very concerned around the direction of the National Environment Standard plantation forestry that MPI have been driving. It will not protect our Indigenous habitats, our streams and erosion-prone land from the impacts of forestry as we've been seeing lately. My own area, the own estuary, was seen as the worst of 32 in the country. The Marlborough Sounds has just been shown to have an area the size of Blenheim of habitat destroyed by either dredging or forestry sediments, and that's only a fraction of the sounds that was measured. So we're worried about it. I went to 7 of the consultations, or hui, around the country of this, and I'm optimistic that MPI will tweak the NES plantation forestry a bit, but I am not confident that it will go far enough to protect our fisheries, nurseries and habitats from more sediments, because this NES is for industry. Councils have been submitting, submissions finished today. Councils have been submitting because they realise they cannot protect their local environments adequately under this NES. Once it's finalised and gazetted, it will replace Council's existing district and regional plan provisions for managing plantation forestry across New Zealand, unless the NES specifically says otherwise, and there's no further chance when it's permitted activity for further public comment. People won't even be able to comment ahead of a forestry harvesting that will destroy and wreck their water supply for a period of time. And MPI said, hey, you can use the National Policy Statement, freshwater management, and you can get in a collaborative process and deal with things. But even just 2 weeks ago, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment was talking about that tool or that process and said there's gaping holes. And one of the biggest ones was there's estuaries were not covered. So our fisheries are still at risk, and that collaborative process is often not quite as effective, being dominated by industry all too often, with a result that is an increase in pollution rather than a decrease. So we need major changes to the National Policy Statement, plantation forestry. And I'll go back to the issue earlier around genetic engineering, that this NES is being used as a Trojan horse to take communities not only out of looking out for erosion, looking after their fisheries, their awa, their kaimoana. It's a Trojan horse to get GE trees in because the government lost its ability to do it through RMA reforms. The EPA, who the MPI is saying should be the arbitrator, consistently has failed. It has a long history of failure and shortcomings in relation to genetic modification, and this government carries on giving money to those fiddling with it. Crop and foods brassicas were planted and illegally flowering even when the decision to allow the field trial was being appealed to the High Court, and it was ultimately stopped, and a foot deep of soil was removed from across that site and deep buried at Kate Valley because of potential contamination. Crown Research Institute Ag Research's GE Animals, through its breached their conditions. The EPA can do nothing about that?
I call Stuart Smith.
Thank you, Mr Chair.